class. Mrs. Yelling back here again for your lesson 6 video assignment, this time about your Unit 2 project. Before we get into that, you know what's coming. The joke of the unit. Okay, question. What is the fruitiest school subject? Answer, history, because it is full of dates. Get it? Okay, have you ever had a date before? This right here, these are dates. They're a fruit. They're kind of like really big raisins. They grow in California a lot. So if you laughed, it's because you know what a date is, or just because you think I'm hilarious. If not, I am funny, and go to the grocery store and see if you can find yourself some dates to munch on. So you're learning lots of stuff today, starting with dates. All right, I thought it was a funny joke. Let's go into your project. So for this project, you will be completing a slideshow, and you have two options to choose it. So this project will allow you to take a topic you learned about briefly in the first unit, study it further, and form opinions that you will share in a slideshow presentation. Your project will be submitted at the end of Unit 2. So I'm giving you all the instructions now so you can have some time to work on it throughout the unit, and then at the end of the unit, you will submit it. Here are the two prompts you can choose from. Prompt number 1. How does the economic, political, and social life of America today compare to the 1920s? So, what was money things like? That's what economics is, right? Like how we earn our money, how we spend our money. What was the economy like in the 1920s compared to the economy today? How is it similar? How is it different? Politics. What are the politics like today versus how were the politics in the 1920s? And then social life. That's probably the one that's the most interesting, right? At least I think it is. Like, what kind of things were they doing in their social life? What kind of clothes did they wear? Where did they hang out with? What did they do for fun? What was that like in the 1920s compared to today? So that's prompt number 1. You can also choose from prompt number 2. What were 3 major reforms that took place in the progressive era? What led up to them, and how do they impact us today? Reforms are really changes that people made to make things better, just things to improve. So lots of changes. For instance, back in that time period, there wasn't very good ways to take care of food. Like, you would go to these processing plants and they weren't very sanitary, and a lot of changes were made, like laws were put in place so that those factories and things would be more sanitary so we could have better foods. That's an example of a reform. So you're going to list 3 major reforms that took place in the progressive era, explain what led up to them, and how they impact us today. And again, you only have to pick one of these prompts. You don't have to try to do 2 slideshows. Pick your favorite one. So here's the requirements for option number 1. So how does the economic, political, and social life of America today compare to the 1920s? You're going to start off with a title slide, and that's worth 5 points. You'll put your name there, because if you don't put your name, I don't know who made it. Put your name and a good title for your project. Then you'll have an introduction slide worth 10 points. There you will explain that you're going to compare the economic, political, and social life of America today to the 1920s. It's just, you're giving an overview. You're pretty much going to say that. In this slideshow, I'm going to be discussing economics, political, and social life of America today versus the 1920s. Give me that overview. Your body slide number 1 is worth 20 points. On this slide, I want you to talk about the economy in the 1920s. Explain how it is similar and different to the economy today. So I want that. How is it like today? How is it different from today? Body slide number 2 worth 20 points. This is where you're going to talk about politics. How are the politics in the 1920s similar today, and how are they different from today? Body slide number 3 worth 20 points. This one's going to talk about the social life in America. So what's one way the social life is similar to today, and what's one way that it was different? Then you'll have a concluding slide worth 5 points. This is where you sum up your slideshow. You'll remind your viewers, hey, in this slideshow, I talked about the ways that these 3 things compare from the 1920s to today. So restate your 3 main points. You do need to do a little bit of research. I'd like you to kind of do some exploring on the internet and some books if you want to, in books to learn a little bit more. And so I want you to use at least 2 sources. Now, do not just copy and paste that stuff from a website and put it in. Put it in your own words, but give me at the end the 2 sources that you use to get your information. So you'll just have a citation slide where I want you to give me the links so I can go and look over them and see where you learned your great information from. So you must use at least 2 sources. You get 10 points for that. Overall appearance worth 10 points. I want you to pick a fun slideshow theme. Don't just throw boring white with black, no pictures. Like, that's not fun for me to read. Make it fun. Make it fun for me to read, fun for you to make. So I want you to pick a fun slideshow theme, and I want you to put at least 4 pictures that you've spread out throughout your presentation for us to look at. So that's prompt number 1. Here's prompt number 2. What were 3 major reforms that took place in the progressive era? What led up to them, and how do they impact us today? So like the other option, you'll have your title slide where you put a good name and a title for your project. Your introductory slide with 10 points. This is where you're going to list the 3 reforms that took place in the progressive era that you're going to discuss. So in this slideshow, I will be discussing these 3 reforms. Boom, boom, boom. And you list them each. Body slide number 1 worth 20 points. This is where you talk about the first reform you picked. Make sure that you discuss what led up to it and how it impacts us today. So this is the reform. This is why it happened, like what events led up to it. And the third thing on that slide, how does that impact us today? Body slide number 2 worth 20 points. This is where you talk about the second reform. What was it? What led up to it? How does it impact us today? Body slide number 3, very similar, also worth 20 points. Your third reform. What is it? What led up to it? How does it impact us today? And then you'll have your concluding slide with 5 points where you sum up your slideshow, remind the reader of the 3 reforms you discussed. Citations, just like the other option, I want you to do a little bit of research, so include links to your sources there. But again, do not just copy and paste the information onto your slides. And then overall appearance worth 10 points. Pick a fun slideshow theme and include at least 4 pictures, and make sure on both those options you're double checking your spelling and grammar. We want this to look really nice. So that's your project and your 2 options. I hope you find it fun and you're able to do it. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. I'm more than willing to help as much as I can here. But other than that, good luck, guys.